Welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to provide an update on how my Monzo investments are performing. Since November last year I've been putting £100 a month in their ventures fund. I'm using this channel to provide monthly portfolio updates like I do my main portfolio with Invest Engine. So if you're new to the channel, I'm Alex, a management consultant by day, and on this channel we like to talk about all things personal finance with a particular focus on how to grow your money. If you'd like to follow my own personal finance journey with regular portfolio updates on my Invest Engine and Monzo portfolios, as well as a bunch of other personal finance related videos, then I'd greatly appreciate a subscribe. But for this video, let's get into it. I'm going to split this video into two parts. The first part, as always, will be taking a look at how the markets have been performing over the last month to provide a reference point for my own portfolio's performance. Then the second part will bring up Monzo's app and of course take a look at how my Monzo investments have been performing over the last month. So let's begin with part one in how the markets have been performing. And let's firstly look at how the US markets have been performing with the S&P 500. We can see the S&P 500 is down by 2.83% over the last month. Much of that bad performance came in the middle of the month between the 12th to the 19th of April. And this bad performance reflected the ongoing tension in the Middle East, and it also reflected inflation data which was worse than expected. CPI inflation data in the US came in at 3.5% in March. Although this doesn't sound a huge number compared to the previous highs above 9% in 2022, this is worse than expected, and importantly, inflation over the last 6 months has not been reducing to the desired 2% level as quickly as America's central bank, the Federal Reserve, would like. Instead, inflation has been sticky around the 3 to the 4% mark. This is important for us as investors, as there is now an expectation that interest rates might not come down as quickly as expected, which of course is bad news for the stock market, as the stock market tends to thrive on low interest rate environments. And currently we're in a rather high interest rate environment compared to what we've seen over the past 20 years. However, we've done enough talking about inflation and interest rates in prior videos. I don't think anyone wants to hear anything more on that topic. Plus, the good news is that downward trend for the S&P 500 wasn't the only talking point of the month for that index. We can see there was an upward trend at the end of the month, and the last 5 days before I recorded this video, the S&P 500 grew by 2.26%. This followed good earnings reports from Google and Microsoft, which brought some optimism back in the markets. Both of those companies reported better than expected revenue growth, which of course had a positive impact on their stock prices. For example, Google's parent company Alphabet was up by 11.25% over the last 5 days at the time of recording, which is the period the 22nd to the 26th of April. So overall, it was a mixed month in the US. The S&P was down by 2.83%, but much of that bad performance came in the middle of the month, and there was a good bounce at the end of the month, so hopefully this trend continues in May. If we now bring it closer to home in the UK and look at the performance on the FTSE 100, we can see it's been an overall positive month for the FTSE, as the index is up by 2.62% over the last month at the time of recording. However, unfortunately for us as Monzo investors, the UK stock market performance is much less important than the US stock market performance, as UK equities only make up a small proportion of Monzo funds, whereas US equities make up a much larger proportion of Monzo funds. And overall, it's been a negative month in the US, which is likely to lead to bad performance for my own Monzo fund. So now we know this, let's move on to part 2 of this video and take a look at my Monzo portfolio's performance. If we bring up their app, we can see that my portfolio now has a balance of £836 and 1 pence. And we can see my overall portfolio performance is now up by 4.5% in percentage terms and £36 and 1 pence in pound terms. However, this portfolio growth reflects the overall growth since I started investing in this portfolio, which was November last year. It doesn't reflect the performance over the last month. And to see the performance over the last month, we'll switch tabs and go to the month tab here. Unfortunately, again, this percentage figure and the overall growth figure doesn't change. It would be good if Monzo had a mechanism to show us the month-on-month figure, as at the moment it just shows the overall figure. But we can kind of calculate how the portfolio's performed over the last month by using this graph. So let's take a look at the performance at the start of the month and the end of the month to see how it's performed. And if we drag this along here to the start of the month, which was the 27th of March, we can see my portfolio had a balance of £652 and 49 pence at this point. Then I had £200 worth of deposits, and at the end of the month I had a portfolio balance of £836.01. So if we take out the deposits in that month, which were £200, we can see my portfolio was actually down across the last month. It was down by around £16.50. So overall, a negative month for my portfolio. And this isn't too surprising given what we spoke about earlier about the S&P 500. This fund, the Adventurous Fund, is mainly exposed to US equities. In fact, nearly 50% of this fund is invested in US equities. And as we spoke about earlier, the S&P had a bad month. It was down by over 2.5%. So of course, this fund wasn't going to perform well as the things it's invested in didn't perform well. So I'm not surprised that this fund is down over the last month. And the bigger picture still is that this fund is up overall by 4.5%. I invested in November and there was a good rally from November to March. I'm just thankful that rally happened, and I wasn't expecting it to last forever. I was expecting a negative month to come around the corner sooner rather than later, as history shows that there are negative months and sometimes even negative years for the market. And I wasn't expecting a fully positive month-on-month journey with this portfolio. History shows that in an otherwise long-term positive journey, there will be blips along the way. So I was expecting this, and I'm still committed to this portfolio, investing £100 a month. And I'm expecting the growth in this portfolio to be positive over the long run. But month on month, you can never guarantee what factors are going to determine performance. And this month, I've had a few factors which have caused negative performance. It's just a bit annoying when we talk month on month that we can't see the exact monthly figure through this Monzo dashboard. It's a good thing because it keeps you long-term focused, but it's a bad thing because you don't have full transparency on your performance. But going back to actually this portfolio and to this update, we can see I'm up overall, and the actual specifics of my accounts have changed since the last update I did. In the last update I did, I mentioned that I was going to open a stock and shares ISA with Monzo, as there was a new rule change in this ISA year, which means you can open and invest in multiple ISA accounts in a single ISA year. This is a big benefit for investors like me who want to use multiple platforms in a single ISA year, as you get the advantage of being able to use an ISA for your investments across different platforms. And there are big benefits of ISA accounts compared to non-ISA accounts, and those benefits are regarding tax shielding, as of course you're shielded from paying unnecessary taxes when using an ISA. You don't have to pay capital gains tax like you do with a general investment account if you go above the threshold for capital gains. And this is very important for this specific year, as the capital gains allowance has reduced from £6,000 to £3,000 in this tax year. And what this means is that if you have an investment account, a non-ISA investment account, and you make gains in the year above £3,000, then you sell those investments, you'll be subject to capital gains tax on the gains you make above that threshold, above the 3K. Whereas with an ISA, you don't have to worry about that, as you're shielded from paying that tax. So I'm super happy that I can now open an additional ISA with Monzo this year to supplement my main ISA with InvestEngine. And we can see this new account on my Monzo dashboard here, the stock and shares ISA with just over £100 invested in it. And this is invested in the same fund as my general investment account, the Adventurous Fund. And then I have the second account here, the general investment account, and this has £734.97 in it. And I think what I'll do is sell the investments in the general investment account and put it in my investment ISA with Monzo, so everything is then in one account. As at the moment, having two accounts just isn't as simple as I'd like. So that's the one change I think I'll make over the next month. So overall, it's been a bad month for my Monzo fund and a bad month specifically for the American stock market. But as a long-term investor, I expect there to be bad months. I expect there to be blips in the market in an otherwise long-term positive journey. In the long term, the markets historically have done well, but over the short term, the markets are volatile and things can change very quickly, as we saw over the last week with good earning reports for Microsoft and Alphabet, Google, leading to good stock market performance, but in the previous weeks, bad inflation data leading to terrible performance. Certain factors can cause the market to change very quickly in the short term. But over the long term, I have a plan I'm still committed to. I'm still going to invest £100 a month in this Monzo fund and £1,500 a month in my InvestEngine portfolio. That plan I'm committed to in the long term. If you'd like some tips on how to build a long-term portfolio and long-term plan for your Monzo fund, for Monzo investors, then I have a video around here. But for this video, thanks for watching.